Hello, vinyl community. This is Matt again, making my second post. I made my first one last week, and several people watched it and subscribed and said they liked it, so I thank you for that, everyone who watched. This tiny little record is the White Stripes Top Special, which was only released in this form, this little 3-inch record. They had released on a tour, I think. They released several of their records, earlier 45s, in this format, and there's by comparison, a regular 45, and they only released Top Special in this format, but several of the others, and they play on a little record player called an inchaphone, I think they call it, which I don't have, and I don't have the other 45s or little records in the set, but I wanted to get that one just because that was the only form that it was ever released in. Never tried to play that on a record player because I don't have one that plays it, but I did hear it on YouTube, and it's a odd little song, kind of fun to have. I wanted to talk about some of the newer records that I bought. Problem with that is that most of the recent records I bought have actually been Christmas album related releases, and I would like to do a Christmas record post at some point because I like that music, always have, but I think it's probably a little too late to do that right now, or it's way too early to do it right now. So we'll do a Christmas post down the road there. But a couple of other things, not very much that I've gotten recently because I've been not spending money. It's always a good thing. I did pick up this record from Daptone. It is The Bus People, South Carolina on one side, and Augusta, Georgia, Here We Come on the other. Hot Pie and Candy Records was, I guess, the original. This was released, this is only like 10 years old, I think, that the original recording, but it sounds like an old soul record from the 60s or 70s to me, and the initial run of that is on clear vinyl, which is still available if you're interested. Last time I checked their website. After that, I guess it'll just be regular black vinyl. Also on Daptone at the same time, I went ahead and picked up this 45, Hank Soulman Mullen, He Upsets Your Dreams on one side, a song called Listen on the flip. It's a good song. Eversoul Records was, that's been out through Daptone for several years. It was just slowly but surely picking up some of their 45s that I didn't have. So, good soul music. Check out Daptone and pick that up. Charles Bradley, Sharon Jones, and the Dap Kings. They've got some good people on there. I think that some of the new people doing soul music, neo soul, I guess you call it, but it sounds like the old stuff. And then some of this is the older people that they're doing re-releases of, I believe. So check them out. They're good. Daptone.com, I think it is. And so let's move on here. This is just a Record Store Day release from Black Friday Record Store Day. Not this November, but the November before that. This box set, John Lennon's Imagine, which has the Imagine album proper in there, but it also has this Imagine Sessions outtakes, white vinyl, and I enjoy this. I played this quite a bit. A lot of times with the outtake stuff, you kind of listen to it once or twice, and that's fun, and then you don't really ever go back to it. But this is a nice set, and it is in a box, like I said. There's the cover. I don't know. It says John Lennon Imagine there, kind of in shiny. Yeah, maybe you can see that. I don't know if that's going to pick up or not across the front of the box. That one, everyone knows, that's just the regular album of Imagine. Has few other things in here. The postcards, that's where John's making fun of McCartney's Ram album, I think, and I don't know, when they were recently broken up and fighting. There's a poster, I'm not going to unfold that, but it's, well, why not? It's John at the piano, I believe. That comes in the box set. I don't know. All white room, kind of a neat poster. So yeah, last box set. That's just a little insert that has the songs on the Imagine Sessions album. And there's the, so it came in a nice little box there, a little pricey, but kind of neat. I didn't have my, no longer had my vinyl copy of Imagine from way back when, so it was nice to get a copy of it on vinyl again. So there's that. Some other things wanted to go through real quick. Here's an album that came out last year, September, October, and I just bring this one day I'm going to soar. Dexys, used to be Dexys Midnight Runners, now they're just Dexys. 80s band that broke up back in 85, 86 or so, got back together and recorded a new album finally here just this last year. Kevin Rowland is the main guy who had always written all the songs anyway. I think he's the only original member. Kind of a neat label there. The reason I bring them up, they're one of my favorite bands, and in America they're not as well known. In England they had 2 or 3 hit records that hit #1. In America and the rest of the world, it's Come On Eileen. Everyone knows that song. That's a #1 all over the world back in 82, I believe. And it's one of those love or hate songs, but everybody here knows them for that. Most people in America don't know the rest of their stuff. Here's their first album from 80, 81, 80, actually 80, Searching for the Young Soul Rebels. They had 3 albums in the 80s. Don't Stand Me Down, To Rye, which was the middle album, which had Come On Eileen, which, like I said, that's one of those 80s hits that everyone knows. You love it or you hate it. Kind of not totally not indicative of their sound, but not totally indicative either. So if that's the only thing you know them by, I would say to check them out. I would start with this one, Searching for the Young Soul Rebels. That's their first album. Pretty easy to find. It's out on CD. I don't know if you can still find it on vinyl or not. Don't Stand Me Down is the sort of their best album, I think, from 85. Kind of hard to find though. I think it's out of print, but you can probably find that. But yeah, with Dexys, it's kind of like if you'd never heard of if you'd heard of the Beatles, heard people talking about the Beatles but never heard them. Kind of hard to imagine that being possible, but if it were, and I came along and said, okay, play some Beatles for you, and I played Yellow Submarine, you know, you're like, well, okay, I don't see what all the fuss is just based on that song. And then I came along and played the other songs, then maybe you'd be like, okay, now I do see. So Dexys is like that. You can't really judge them on Eileen. I like the song personally, but it's not as far from their best, and it's far from being totally representative of what they kind of a English band doing Celtic soul jazz. Great band. I really love them. So I would say go on YouTube and check some of their stuff out if you're not familiar with them past Eileen. Burn It Down, Geno, Geno, is a good one to Tell Me When My Light Turns Green. This Is What She Likes. Those are some of the songs to check out on YouTube maybe. This album, for being, this is a good album. I don't rate it as high as the three from the '80s, but considering that it came out last year, so it was nearly some 30 years after their initial, when they were all 20-year-old kids in their initial bursts there. Uh, it's a double album. I don't know if it's on CD. Not sure if it's a double, but the album's a double album. Um, I like it, and I'm still getting into it. It's a good solid effort because most of the time when those bands reform after 10, 20, 30 years, it's something's lost along the way, and it's just not as good. But that's definitely a good album, worth checking out. Just not as good as their earlier things. Um, let's see, a couple of other things. This is Numero Records. I think I talked about. I showed the singles box set last week, the 45 singles in it from Numero, and I got quite a few of their things. This is kind of a mystery to me. This is Renee Acker, If I Had a Magic Wand, which is same song on both sides. From the sleeve, that's a Numero release, and that must have been an extra with one of the albums I bought somewhere back there, but I was looking through my box of 45s, and I have no clue. I got this not too long ago, the last year or two, but I had no clue which record that came with. It's a good song. It's just soul music, kind of just an old northern soul type ditty. Um, so I'll have to research that a little and see if I can remember where I got into that, where I picked that thing up. Um, but yeah, I mean, Dexys, not to keep harping on them, but they're kind of like the Jam in the United States. They're a little well known, better well known because of Eileen, but otherwise they're basically not known in the United States, which is kind of like the Jam, which is another one of my absolute favorite bands. And these I'll just real quick go through. I bought these are some old English 45s in the picture sleeves, and I bought these back in '82, '83, somewhere around there. Great record store called Metamorphosis in Dallas, which is long gone, unfortunately. Um, and these are actually not the originals. They, I think in '82 they reprinted because the band had broken up. I guess it was '83. The band broke up in '82 or so, and in '83 they re-released and reprinted the sleeves. But so they're not the originals, but they are great reproductions thereof. Strange Town, great song. Butterfly Collector. Jam always had some really good B-sides that weren't on their albums. Uh, when You're Young and Smithers Jones, the Smithers Jones on the Setting Suns album is a big orchestrated deal. This is just the guitar and version of with guitar, bass, and drums, so it sounds kind of a bit different from the album version. There's Absolute Beginners, Tales of the Riverbanks. So the Jam, yeah, they're one of my favorites. So check them out when and if you get the chance, if you have not already. Um, Another record store day from um, this was Black Friday just this last November. Link Wray. It's a double 45 set, and supposed to be Big City After Dark's a great song. That's a piece of music. But these are some couple of his old 45s that were incredibly rare back in the day. Uh, Says so here anyway. But I don't have a lot of Link Wray. This is the only Link Wray I have. But this is good stuff if you like the old kind of, I don't know what he would be, surf, rockabilly, instrumental guitar. Uh, Definitely one of the influential guitarists of the early rock and roll period of the late 50s, early 60s. So, don't have a whole lot else now. I'm going to break the rules, show us CDs, just because I'm in Fort Worth teen scene. These are 1, 2, and 3. Um, Basically, these are Fort Worth kids that when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan in '64, kids all over America and everywhere else, I guess, went out and formed bands. garage bands and so forth, and some of them even went so far as to press up a 45 or two. And these guys are all from Fort Worth, and having grown up here, it's just some really good stuff on here. And then there's some just random bands playing Gloria and some of the garage rock hits that everybody knows. So it ranges from okay to some gems on here. Liner notes are fun to read for me because having grown up here, they talk about a lot of the local high schools that these kids went to and playing at Seminary South Mall and so forth, which nobody outside of Fort Worth is going to know what that is. But and they also Will Rogers Coliseum was where bands like the Rolling Stones, the Yardbirds, the Animals, so forth would play back in the 60s, and some of these kids actually got opening spots for those guys, so that's kind of neat. Those Fort Worth teen scenes came out 99 or so, I want to say. Might say on here, I don't know, 2004, so maybe a little later than I thought. So yeah, 2004, but still, I mean, that's almost 10 years ago. And this film, Teen A Go Go, has some of those same bands. This film actually came out about 2 years ago, so it's several years after the Fort Worth teen scene CDs. But they interviewed a lot of those guys that are, they're all in their 60s or whatever now, but 60s or 70s now. But this is got some footage of these old bands from Fort Worth back in the 60s and a little bit of history about Fort Worth in the time. And Ira Robbins, I think, is the name, the guy that used to run Trouser Press magazine. Lenny Kaye is in here, I believe. Yeah, Lenny Kaye is in here. Bruce Chanel, Johnny Reno, and then several of these bands from the Fort Worth teen scene talking about how garage rock music developed in Fort Worth in the 60s. It's a fun little film. It's available. It's got its own website, but if you have Netflix, it is on Netflix. It's called Teen A Go Go, and it is on there for instant viewing. I think you can rent it as well. But if you got the streaming on Netflix, I would recommend it. Another thing, just to blow my own horn there, if you can read that, there's a little blurb on the CD cover, and that would be me. I wrote a review of that for the paper. A glorious ride through a more innocent and exhilarating time when the music really mattered. I didn't know they were going to put that on there, so I was kind of surprised when I saw a later copy. I had an early copy of that when I did a review. When I saw a later copy and saw myself on there, that was kind of swell, I guess. But let's see. Speaking of the jam, here's another quick one. It's a Paul Weller. This is a record store day from his latest album. It's a 45. That was, I think this was just regular record store day last year, if I'm not mistaken. Red vinyl, kind of a cool label there. And that's from his latest album, which I don't have. This is all I have is this 45. And I need to check it out, though, because the side A is a really good song. Side B is pretty good, too. So I've got his last couple of albums before this, but not his latest. And solo is not as good as the jam, but the last few have been pretty good, so worth checking out. And I think that's about. Oh, let me show you this. This is a kind of a one-of-a-kind deal, and I bought this at a record store back in the 70s. So She's a Woman by the Beatles, later pressing because it's on Apple. Should be I Feel Fine on the flip side, right? Oh, wait a minute. Is Baby Blue by Badfinger. Somebody messed up at the pressing plant. The record does have I Feel Fine and She's a Woman on it, no Badfinger. But I always kept that as just a little label mistake. I thought it was pretty cool, and bought that at G.C. Murphy's, I believe, back in the 77, 78. I don't know if anybody remembers that store. And I will conclude with a magazine, I guess you'd call it. Uh, Back in the 70s, I used to, through the early 80s, I used to belong to several of the Beatle fan clubs that were around back before the internet and that you have today, all the access to information and the message boards and Facebook and whatnot. And it was just more back in those days. You went into the bookstore and you'd find maybe a book or two on the Beatles. It wasn't like now where there's hundreds of books on Beatles and pretty much any band you would care to look into. Um, but the Beatle fan clubs, this is not the official Beatle fan club that ran through 1970 or so. I was too young to be part of that, but several people just did fan clubs that were, well, here's Strawberry Fields Forever, and this is in really torn up condition, but it was another one called The Right Thing. One was called With a Little Help from My Friends, the Harrison Alliance, and they were just, this one actually looks like a magazine. It's stapled on the spine, but some of them were just stapled up here and folded. Little newsletters of 20 or 30 pages that labor of love type thing. The people that did it probably didn't make much or any money out of it, and they put out 6 issues a year or something like that. Supposed to be 6 issues, but it didn't always work out that way. Strawberry Fields Forever, a guy named Joe Pope started this in, I think I want to say he started it in 71, 72, somewhere around there. And it ran through about 1981 or so, 81, maybe 82. I think after John Lennon died, he kind of lost interest in it. And but this is from 1979 because, or late 78, early 79, because it has a review of George Harrison's newest at the time album, which was the one just called George Harrison. But the fun or interesting thing about this one, this issue we finally settle it is Paul McCartney dead, and it's the whole Paul is dead rumor, and it's pretty extensive. This guy, Joel Glazier, who wrote the article, it was 28 pages of. I mean, this stuff was a lot cooler when we were all 12, 15 years old, but whole lot of stuff about all the clues and what they mean and theories and silliness, but it's fun to read. Or I haven't read it and it's been years, but there's on the old Batman comic book with the Paul is Dead cover from back in '69 or so. So yeah, this was a great Beatles fan club, and the guy, actually the Joe Pope, the guy that ran this, he used to put out Christmas records just like the regular Beatles fan club did, little flexi disc things that were outtakes and so forth. And I used to have those, and I don't. I used to have a complete set of the Strawberry Fields Forever, and I sold them on eBay. Unfortunately, I mentioned that in the first post. I wish I hadn't now, but I did keep this one because this was always kind of fun to read. This got passed around at school back. I was like in 9th grade when this one came out. So the whole Paul is Dead thing was a big, rock legend and fun to talk about and stuff. But don't know where you could find how many of these are around, but it's an interesting read. Anyway, I kind of rambled here, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it for now. I will be back with some more records in a week or so, or if not sooner. I'm still watching videos by a lot of other guys on the VC, guys and girls, and enjoying them. One guy, Derek Vaughn, on there, I think looks like he posts about 3 or 4 videos a day. It seems like I enjoy, fun to watch, and I'm enjoying it, listening to him. I just don't know where he gets the time or energy to do that. Plus, I can see behind him that he's got a lot more records than I do. But I'll post some more, and hope you all enjoy this one and watch it, and I'll talk to you soon. Day for now.